Hello and welcome back to another episode of VGX on the Hunt Roadshow, and today we are in South Dakota, best known for Mount Rushmore and the Badlands, and also Mount Rushmore. But I'm not on that end of South Dakota. The west side of South Dakota, awesome place to be. If you've never been there, you should go there. It's pretty fun. I'm on the east side, which is kind of a barren wasteland of nothingness. But there is a few towns that I like to stop in here and there down there. And Watertown, South Dakota is one of them, and that's where we are this morning. Watertown is famous for the Terry Redlin Museum, which is an artist. If you've ever seen pictures on the wall that are ducks flying or other type of wildlife like that, chances are it's probably that artist, and that's the museum here. Anyway, we got here early, and we went to Target to check out their clearance. XCOM Enemy Unknown for $5, brand new. These have been sitting on clearance for probably 3 or 4 weeks now. Great game. Probably one of my favorites, strategy for the console. It's hard to find a good one turn-based, and XCOM definitely fits into that. However, there is a newer version, Enemy Within. It includes the expansion pack and stuff like that. So this is kind of not the definitive version anymore. So even like $5 is getting any game. $5 is pretty good, but this is kind of that area where this game's, you should probably pick it up for $10. Otherwise, go for the definitive version, which is not that much more than that either. And also, the only other thing we got there was a full-price game, Kid Icarus Uprising, which is an early, well, I wouldn't say early, maybe in the first year or two of the 3DS. It is pretty much out of stock everywhere now. So finding this in a store, just had to pick it up. So yeah, we're going to keep going. Going to be spending all weekend here in South Dakota, and we will see what else we can find. Okay, and we just got out of a local video store here in Watertown called Premier Video, which we used to have a bunch of them back where I live, and did really well at them, and then they all went out of business just like all other movie rental stores have. But somehow this one still survives in the middle of South Dakota. But on their sign they had video games and movies for sale. Stopped in, and they sure did have some video games for sale. Marvel Ultimate Alliance for PS3, $6. Really good price on that. Both of the Marvel Ultimate Alliance on PS3 are very expensive comparatively for how old they are. Picked up Viva Pinata for $6, which is not the greatest deal, but it's hard to find the original complete case like this. It came out as a platinum hit later on in its life, and that's where you see a lot of them, as this shape is a little bit more unique for that case. And then a bunch of late release Wii games, which I think were pretty much all released in the last year of basically Wii games. And that's Poke Park 2 for $20, which that sounds expensive for an old Wii game, but it still commands a pretty high price compared to what a lot of Wii games are now. These ones, like these two, are certainly cheaper. Pandora's Tower, which we almost did not get. I have not played it, but I'll probably play Last Story before this. And this one was $8. And then finally Rhythm Heaven Fever, which I loved Rhythm Heaven on the Wii. Thought they were excellent games, and the Wii one, I think it's the first one on a big screen. I think they were all handhelds before that. So yeah, great find there. All good prices. So yeah, next place. Okay, we are outside of a Shopko here, and we decided to check out their clearance. In the past few months, they've been doing pretty good by 3DS and that type of stuff. They're a little picked over compared to those days, but we did manage to find WWE All-Stars for PS3, which that is like if the regular annual edition would be like a Street Fighter, this one, All-Stars, is probably more akin to like Super Smash Brothers style, kind of a mashup of a whole bunch of old guys and new guys and a whole bunch of goofy stuff. And then a couple 3DS games, Tetris Axis and Super Street Fighter for 3DS, and those were $9 a piece. They were launch titles, I think, but they're pretty common, even to find brand new yet. So $9 isn't a great price, but it was cheap enough for us to pull the trigger. So yeah, we're going to try and see some pawn shops, I think, now. Okay, our first pawn shop of the day, and there wasn't much in there for games. A little bit, but not too much, and if they did, they were pretty much overpriced. But I did manage to find a few that maybe he didn't catch right away, and that would be Battlefield 4 for $10, which that just came out last year, so $10 is pretty good on that. And then another complete copy of NHL 94. I think that's like the third or fourth one that we've had this month. So I don't know why we keep stumbling across them, but I don't mind it. NHL 94 is a pretty good hockey game. But yeah, that's all for Lester's Pawn Shop here in Watertown. There's a couple more in town that we're going to check out. Okay, and the second pawn shop here in Watertown is National Pawn Company, and they're a local chain that have a bunch of pawn shops kind of all over the place. And we've done okay at them before. They're not flat rate or anything. They're all individually priced, and usually, most of the time, they know what they have. But I never walk out of one empty. So at this one, it was okay. Not too bad. Ended up picking Enslaved up for PS3. I always pick this game up. I probably have a ton of copies of this by now. I'm not even sure, but I feel like it's going to be one of those games that are going to be hard to find in the future, and everybody's going to realize how great a game it was. Hit and Run, The Simpsons on GameCube, complete copy for $8 is not bad on that. Sega Genesis, complete copy of WWE, WWF at that point, Raw, which you wouldn't think is worth anything. And it used to be not, but it's starting to go up. Not sure why. And, of course, NHL 94. Don't know where these are coming from. I know it's an extremely common game, but it's still crazy that it pops up as much as it has been lately. But, yeah, one more pawn shop, and I think we might be out of this town. We'll see. Okay, the third and final pawn shop here in Watertown was called 212 Pawn, and they do have a lot of video games in there, obviously all individually priced, but really not too bad. It's actually, most of them were still under eBay price, just not quite good enough for us to grab a bunch of them, but we actually did grab quite a few. And the first was The Sims 3 Pets for Xbox 360, which it says limited edition, and it was, because I think it got a very small release, and that was it. So for $10 on that, that was probably 60% off of what otherwise costs. And then seems like they were getting rid of all their PS2 and Xbox games, because at this point at pawn shops, usually it's picked through pretty clean, and they're just taking up room for all these worthless games. But they were all $3 a piece, and ended up actually finding a few treasures in there. We found Silent Hill 2, Gradius 5, which this one is hard to find, Silent Hill Origins, Sylphid, Bloody Roar 3, and a brand new seal copy of Legacy of Kain for Xbox, which I have no idea what that even worth, but for $3 for a brand new sealed game, as long as it's not sports, I'm gonna buy it. But yeah, not too bad. I even had another opportunity to get NHL 94, except they wanted $5 for the cartridge only. I can get them all day, everywhere. Like pretty much any store that I shop. I could go to Walmart and they probably have it for less than $5. The rate this is going for NHL 94, I can get them pretty much anywhere. But anyway, yeah, we're going to try the Goodwill here. Well, we struck out at the Goodwill there in Watertown, so we moved on to GameStop, and to my surprise, I walk in there and they had a whole rack of PS2 games yet, which they are 75% off. Most GameStops do not carry PS2 games at all anymore, and if they do, they're usually pretty thin. But this one had actually a lot of decent games, nothing real grand or anything like that, but things like Silent Hill 3, Suikoden 3, some stuff that you don't run across too often and still has a little bit of a value to it, all 75% off. So that was cool. After that, we went down to Brookings, South Dakota, which is about an hour south. Went in the pawn shop there called Bargains on Main, I believe. Prices were pretty high on pretty much everything. And then we looked in the GameCube, because that's always one of the best places to look. And they had Pikmin marked as $15. And I was pretty interested in that if it was complete, which it is. So I was happy about that. And then I noticed on the side there was a little 2. So I'm like really interested at that point just to see if when they get the disc, if it was actually Pikmin 2, because that one is about double, triple the value of the original Pikmin. Sure enough, they got up there and it is Pikmin 2 right there. And then now I have a case and manual for the original Pikmin 2. For the original Pikmin, I should say. But yeah, Pikmin 2, you don't see that one too often. The value's gone down quite a bit since they re-released it on Wii, but even that one is hard to find now too. I would say actually the Wii one is maybe probably has a lower print run than the original, so keep your eye out on that one too. But overall, Pikmin 2 is pretty easy to find, but you're still going to pay for it. So yeah, maybe just get Pikmin 3. Okay, we just got out of the Goodwill here in Brookings, South Dakota, and not too bad in there. Had a decent selection, probably the most DVDs that I've ever seen at a Goodwill. And when I look at DVDs, I always look at music DVDs and anime, because those are always worth a little bit more than normal a lot of times. And music today, we found a couple of Takayo Hotel concert DVDs, and both of them were worth a heck of a lot more than what I paid for them. And as far as games go, Simpsons Hit and Run for PS2, which they didn't have a lot, or they did have a lot of PS2, but it was, you know, everything had a year on it, so that means it's a sports game pretty much. And a pretty nice boxed full copy of Pharaoh for PC. I have been picking up bigger box copies of PC games. We don't sell them, or we don't do anything, we just kind of hold on to them. I don't know, if you're a collector for those PC games, probably contact us. But yeah, not too bad. On to the next place. Okay, just got out of a video store here in Brookings called Mr. Movies, and there's a few of them still around, not too many. Anyway, they're having a tent sale outside today, and usually their games are a little bit overpriced, especially for a rental service that is selling their games. But during the tent sale, all games 10% off. Big deal. Still, a lot of them were still expensive even with that. But we did pick up a bunch that are I never see, especially complete. Yu-Gi-Oh! On DS. Always hold their value. Don't know why. Dragon Quest V for PS or DS, and it looks like this is the original print run, not the reprint. So that is pretty awesome. That was a really hard game to find. Then they reprinted it. It's still hard to find, but still not as hard to find as this. Oh, bummer. It's not complete though. Does not have the manual. Thought it did. That's Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn for Wii, and you can see what the price is. So I got it for, you know, $4.50 off of that. It's still over $40 for that game. It's still a pretty decent deal in the grand scheme of things. Still bummed it doesn't have the manual in it, but that's our loss, I guess. Still a good deal on it, I guess. But yeah, we are going to check out GameStop before we leave this town. And we just stopped out of GameStop here in Brookings, and didn't have much for us there. No PS2 games like the one in Watertown, but they did still have a smorgasbord of DS games, which we picked up. Full Metal Alchemist Dual Symphony, Wacky Races. I just love that show way back in the day. No idea what the game is about, but for $2 I had to get it. Bleach for DS, and again Cave Story 3D, which I pick these up all the time if I can find them anyway. But that's all we found in that GameStop. Rather light. Yeah, on to the next town. I think we will be going to Sioux Falls now. Okay, we just got out of Pan America here in Sioux Falls, and Pan America is kind of a chain that's kind of all over the Midwest, and they are hit or miss, and this one's usually a miss. But usually I don't walk out of there with nothing. Like today, Godzilla, Destroy All Monsters for Xbox. Like I was saying in the previous videos, that Godzilla games have kind of went up in value. I think it's because of the movie, I'm not sure. And second, Zelda Spirit Tracks, which is a sealed copy. I'm guessing they priced this for a used copy instead of the sealed. So that's pretty much all we got there out of, you know, a few thousand games that they have. So, but we are going to try a couple other places. Okay, we just got out of probably one of my favorite places to shop, and that is called Last Stop CD Shop. There's 2 locations here in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. I go here, I go out of the way to go to these places. I mean, if I'm anywhere near the area, I'll drive an hour to get to these places, these 2 stores, because they are just truly awesome on their prices and stuff like that. They have everything. They do a lot of movies, they do a lot of books, they do it's used media the best you could possibly do it. I've been to a lot of those type of stores, and this one is easily the best. The nicest people in there, the most helpful, and I think they give you pretty good prices too, from what I could tell overhearing other people bringing stuff in. But anyway, I was stopped there, getting a bunch of stuff like we did today. We got a bunch of loose DS games, all very good priced. Some Mega Man, Star Force 3, they have just doubled in the last year, it seems like. And we ended up picking up another Cave Story. This one is complete for $25. Awesome deal. Haunting, starring Poltergeist, for Sega Genesis. I think that was $8. And Metal Gear Solid Portable, or digital graphic novel. So if you don't know anything about what's going on in Metal Gear Solid, which I've played them all, and I still don't know, I doubt this is going to help you. I really do doubt it. That Metal Gear Solid is, I think he just wants it to be a little bit confusing and a little bit obtuse. So I don't think this novel's going to clarify anything, but it's kind of a neat thing to have, and I'm not sure where you even bought it new, if it was a special order thing or not. But pretty interesting. But yeah, whole bunch of Game Boy games and DS games. Too many to go through, but we are going to go to the next location that they have and see what's over at that one. For it being our last stop of the day, it's really appropriate that the name of the place is The Last Stop CD Shop. We went to the second location, and we picked up a bunch more Game Boy games, DS games, and a few retro, current, kind of everything. So I just kind of want to highlight a few of them that I got. I'm a big fan of the Klonoa series, which I don't know if you could call it a series when it's only just a few games, but they did make a few Game Boy Advance games, and 1 and 2 were both there for $5 a piece, I think, which is not a steal by any means, but I'm a big fan of the games, and I kind of want them to be represented on the website, so that's why they're there. That's why I got them. And for Sega, Wayne's World, which Sega games, of course, are going up, and this one has been slowly climbing. It's not anything real valuable, not like the NES version. If you find the NES version, be sure to pick that one up. Super Nintendo, Doom, which is always a classic. Actually, it runs pretty decent on the Super Nintendo. I found it completely playable back in the day. Maybe, I don't know if I could find Doom at all completely playable anymore. It would be rough to go back to that, I think. For the NES, Cubicle? I think that's how you say it. I don't know. It's kind of a puzzle game. You kick ice around, if I remember right. I don't know. I don't remember. It's an IREM game, which sadly they're no longer in business. But yeah, they made good games, and that one was no exception. One of the underrated puzzlers, I would say, on the NES. So pick it up if you see it. And then finally, Urban Chaos on the PlayStation 2, which sounds pretty generic. They couldn't have picked maybe a worse name for it. I don't know. Maybe it's not that bad. But it is made by Rocksteady, the guys that make Batman now. And I have not played it, so I can't really say too much about it. But I've heard that it is pretty decent, and I love the Batman games, so I have to believe it. I'm not sure. I wonder if the combat's the same, or if that is something that was new to the Batman series. But I think I might try that when I get back home, and rent it from the site just for a few days anyway. But anyway, that's going to do it for today. Thank you for joining us in our South Dakota adventure. Tomorrow, we're going to do some more South Dakota stuff. Just probably smaller towns. We'll see where we go. Have not planned it out yet, but we'll figure it out as we go. So, join us next week and you will see that. Thanks.